that is that I don't really think there is any such thing as a disobedient child. I simply do not believe in disobedience. Now bear with me for a moment, because I know that might sound strange. And I've met some of the most disobedient children. I was a teacher, but also a school counselor. And I know there are children who are naughty. I know there are children who push us. But I don't really believe in conscious disobedience. So rare. Maybe maybe a few times in all my 30 years of educating, but very, very rare. What I see is disorientation. This is not disobedience. It's disorientation. Now, disorientation is a very uncomfortable feeling for a child. There's very few things for a human being as psychologically stressful as feeling disoriented, as feeling I don't know where I stand, feeling that I don't get it, I don't belong here. That feeling, very uncomfortable. Now, when a child is feeling uncomfortable, either socially, they're disoriented, their friendships are changing, or they don't have friends, or they've just been excluded, they don't know how to make friends, that's socially. Sometimes a child can feel disoriented academically. They don't understand what's going on, they don't get the science or the math or the languages or the writing. They don't understand and they start to feel very disoriented. Or it might be behaviorally. They don't feel understood by the teacher. They will challenge a teacher's authority. All these ways of being disoriented will lead a child to behave in a challenging way. The metaphor that I often think of is that of pinging. Now, what pinging means, and the reason I think of that metaphor, is that when a mariner, a submariner at sea, wants to get their bearings, they send out a sonic ping, a noise, and it hits something out in the oceans, on the ocean floor, or an ocean mountain, and bounces back. And they send out a second ping, and it sounds like the noise is ping. And they send it out, it hits something, it bounces back. And they very often do it a third time. And they send out a ping, it hits something, bounces back. And they keep sending out pings until it reaches something, bounces back, and they get their bearings. They get their geographical bearings. Now, when our children are disoriented behaviorally, socially, emotionally, academically, they send out behavioral pings. Their behavior, they send out often bad behavior, difficult behavior, and we're getting pinged. Have you ever had a child, and I suspect you have, where they do something quite challenging, and then they look right at you? And like, what are you going to do about that? And they look at you. You know you're getting pinged. Even if they don't look at you, you know you're getting echolocated. You're getting pinged. Now, the most important part of understanding the pinging process is that it shifts our thinking. And if there is a shift in our thinking around children's behavior, that they are disoriented, not disobedient, then a few really quite wonderful things happen. One of them is that we move into a space, a very special space that opens that tangle. And I think of this as the wonder of wondering. The wonder of wondering. And we look at a child who is disoriented and behaving badly, and we wonder, I wonder what's happening for you. And inwardly we wonder why they needed to talk like this. I wonder why you're so lost. I've seen teachers do this who truly get this principle of pinging and use the wonder of wondering, and immediately they've created space within their own soul. They've created space within their own heart. Because we can't wonder and be angry at the same time. The amygdala in the brain, the fight or flight brain, is soothed, is calmed when we wonder, because that's the limbic system. When the limbic system wonders, and the frontal lobes, even higher brain function, the frontal lobes in the neocortex wonder, the fight or flight part of our brain is soothed, and space is created in that knot, in that tangle. The moment we wonder, a child said something quite challenging, and you look at them kindly, wonderingly. In that moment, a child is scanning you. A child is often looking right at you, because there is almost no point in talking with a lot of words to a child who's very angry, very upset, because the parts of the brain that receive speech have largely shut down. All they're doing is looking at you, scanning you, trying to see if you're safe. That's all they're interested in. Now, when we wonder, when we truly wonder, our eyes soften at the sides. Our eyes soften. Our mouth softens. It goes from a tight lip to a slightly softer, almost imperceptible when we wonder. Our eyes don't focus very hard. They look a little bit into the middle distance. Like, I wonder. Eyes are softer. Mouth is softer. Shoulders soften. And the child, in that moment, only really is scanning a teacher for two things. One is for body language, to know if they're safe or unsafe. Do they have to fight back, or can they begin to de-escalate? And the other thing that they're looking for is tone. They're not really listening to the words we speak, but when we do speak, they're really tuning into the tone, body language and tone. And the wonder of wondering, if we do that, it's a tiny little thing. No one would really notice that around you that you're doing it. But the very best teachers that I've ever seen have this ability to not take it personally. You see, and the wonder of wondering helps us not take it personally. You can't wonder about why a child is disoriented on one hand and take it personally on the other. It's almost impossible. And when a child understands that you're not taking it personally, there is another point of where they feel safe. The wonder of wondering. Now here's the part that I kind of like the best in some ways, is that when we wonder what is happening for a child, we don't necessarily need to have an answer. We don't. If we can figure it out, that's good. You know, if we think, oh, I wonder if that child had a really bad experience at home, or, oh, I know what happened, that we had a lesson before where they felt really, they just didn't get the decimal fractions, the decimals that we're using, and now they're grumpy. Or whatever it is, you might come up with an answer, but it actually doesn't really matter. What matters is that you did not take it personally. Your face was softer, your body language was just that little bit more receptive, and the child recognizes you're safe. That's pinging, and that is the wonder of wondering. It's almost like being, the way I think of it, is being inquisitive rather than accusative. And so you're not accusing the child of anything. You're wondering. You're wondering, why is this going on? Very small but mighty and powerful gesture for an educator to cultivate. And I know we all wonder from time to time, but this is a capacity, if we cultivate it, really every time we start to feel tensions in our body and a child is misbehaving and frustrating us, if we can train ourselves into the magic of wondering, that power of wondering, if that becomes a place that we go to every time we feel frustrated, every time, then our path as an educator will I almost promise you, will be very different.